So now I'll do a few stanzas of dedicatory prayers. So initially, we're gathered together here, and let us adjust our attitude for receiving the teaching, thinking that just as far as space extends, existing within that space in countless individuals in a state of dissatisfaction, and in order to change their situation, in order to bring about their betterment, I myself must achieve the state of complete and perfect Buddhahood in as quick a time as possible. And in order to achieve such a state, I must initially hear instructions upon how to achieve such a state. And in order to do that, I'm now going to receive the instruction or a piece of advice written by the unparalleled Bengali saint Tisha, known as the Jewel Rosary for an Awakening Warrior. So, as with the discourse yesterday, So I'd like to begin the session by bringing to mind the qualities one perceives through hearing, in this particular regard, hearing and teaching. So when we talk about let me start again. So, as in the discourse yesterday, we began by a quotation from the sutras, which extolled the qualities of initially listening to the teaching. So I'd like to follow suit and begin the session today by a further elaboration on that quotation. The sutra goes on to describe the qualities of hearing by utilizing 4 examples. So the first one is that correct hearing is likened to a lamp which clears away the darkness of confusion. So if we imagine a room where there is no light, how are we to know where to move around in that room? We do not know what is in front of us, we do not know what is behind us, we do not know anything about the contents of that room. What we would do in such a situation is turn on the light. And when that light is shining brightly, whether it be torch light or a lamp light, it will clearly illuminate the room, allowing us to move about freely therein. We would be able to see everything clearly in the room. In just the same way, if we liken our mind state to be that room, and then the activities to be engaged in, the activities to be abandoned or turned away from, as being like the furniture or the contents of that room. And then if we are confused about what to do, it is as if we have no clear lamp which would allow us to freely move around the room. So that the lamp of hearing is one that which allows us to clearly see what is to be taken up with regard to spiritual practice and what is to be abandoned with regard to spiritual practice. In general, when we talk about taking something up or abandoning it, this refers to the karmic law, or that's to say action, natural law of action, cause and effect, knowing how to generate positive action and abandon negative action. So the confusion is likened to darkness, which veils that action, teaching about action, cause and effect from us, which does not allow us to see clearly what to do with regard to our spiritual practice. So then, the more we hear teachings, or the more we listen to discourse on the subject matter, such as the 4 truths, action, cause and effect, the 2 truths, the 3 jewels, etc., the clearer our understanding will become, and the more free our ability to move within the dark, within our existence. So that which would illuminate our path is the lamp, and the lamp here is the example of the qualities gleaned through initially hearing the teaching.
다음에 배도 무슨도 또 대대 제발 때는 애들 가사가 단체도 주지 단체 세버지고 대도 단에 초바지 아니 남게 단 정말 집에 되는데 천차대 주좀 예수 실로그 자지 천차대 정말 제발 난시 너로게 가사가 단체도 주지 단체 이게 군도 뭔가 말이바티 아니 출발할 때는 정말 제발 됐어 담보 다음에 배는 표정이 싫었지 대내 삼종이 싫었지 대내 관종이 싫었지 다 대내 몸에 편지 무슨도 또네 대내 가사도 단체도 주지 단체 군다다 현지도 그래서 마이전도 세벌 제바인도 단에 대남도 담보도 초바지 제인도 단에 군도 몸에 참 천천히 있어요 군도 몸에 단 정말 집에 천천히도 주좀 뒤에 초바지
Hearing is also likened to the sharp weapon which destroys the inner enemy of holding on to an autonomously existing identity or I. So here, the power of having heard the teaching is likened to a sharp weapon. So in the olden days, people used throwing stars, swords, spears, etc. to slay their external enemies. Nowadays you would perhaps not use the word sharp weapon, but rather would use something like a gun or something. But the meaning is the same. It is that weapon which destroys an external enemy. So here, with regard to Buddha's teaching, we're not looking for an external enemy, but rather we're looking at an internal enemy. The internal enemy is that which keeps us under its domain, which is action, which is wrought through destructive emotions. And those destructive emotions all have as their basis self-cherishing, which has as its base grasping onto an autonomously existent identity within either oneself or with regard external or other phenomena to oneself. So this enemy, this inner enemy, how can we get rid of it? What do we need? What weapon do we need to utilize in order to remove such an enemy? Here, the weapon, the sharp weapon, is hearing the teachings. For example, really to uproot this confusion about reality, whether one's own reality or the objects which one relates to, whether they be animate or inanimate. The confusion then that grasps onto their kind of autonomous existence, how can we get rid of it? Here its antidote is the wisdom or the exalted understanding which understands the lack of that autonomous existence. This wisdom realizing suchness or emptiness directly is one which comes about through meditation upon that subject, which comes about through contemplating the subject, which comes about initially through hearing discourse or hearing teaching on the subject. So here it is paramount that when engaging or starting to engage in the spiritual path, that one listens correctly to them, a qualified teacher, understanding the important points of practice, contemplating them and then putting them into practice in order to achieve the stated result. The stated result here then is the complete subjugation of one's internal enemy, of this grasping onto autonomous existence of oneself, or grasping onto the autonomous identity of oneself and other phenomena. So the sharp weapon, which will initially hack to pieces this enemy, is one's initial listening to the Dharma teaching.
소수 투바야 보지 제세였나 투바디 구멍게 제가 매버리 매르치도야 요만 취키도야 요만 다와나 집에고 소소달베 대딩이지 근데 제대게 되는데 rinpoche라 소바다 소소고 노르타차 간디주네 두둘이야 아니 내가 몽고요 지 내가 몽고지 먼저 그러나 초사적으로 전에 차샤바이나 소소래야 배들이 쇼르베 공청부터네 들어가다 이제 무슨 순지죠 이거 불을 쇠샤베 쇼래하고 진짜죠 근데저 기업이나 다 소소 사지도 저거 보고 세도요 어디 전에 가서네 가서 다지 어디 축이 켜둬야 요 매드지도야 요 uma 켜둬야 요 어디 다가나지 깨르다야 그 rinpoche라 소바 얘나야 그네 키야다지 고 가래 얘나야 개체 먹어요 소소 틀바야 보지 제셔였나 계속 개체다네 엄마 소소다 염돈 돈에 대기여 가지 근데 얘다 공부라서 미치 노지 초선 공부라서가 되게 켜둬야 내가 노지는 초도 주가지 투베 노르데
Hearing the teaching is also likened to a most precious treasure which cannot be lost. So when we talk about treasures, this can refer to a multitude of items, perhaps jewels or items of jewelry, can refer to an expensive piece of clothing, perhaps a nice car and so forth. All of these external jewels, you might say, all these external objects of our attention are such that they can easily be lost. In the sense that, as you know, we are not in a world without thieves. Our kind of treasures can be stolen, they can be lost, they can be swept away by changes in the elements. For example, they can be burned, they can be blown away, they can be carried away by water, etc. All of these external treasures then are something which are temporal and easily lost. However, if one listens well to the Dharma teaching, the knowledge which one gleans from such discourse, through listening attentively thereto, is like an inner treasure. This inner treasure then remains with one. It is not something which can be lost by changes in the elements. It is not something which can be carried away by a thief's hands. It is not something which we can absent-mindedly leave in somewhere to have it taken away by somebody else. Here that this treasure of hearing the Dharma teaching remains with us at all times. For example, if we think about an expensive piece of clothing, perhaps like a very expensive shawl made out of camel hair or pashmina, we wear that. We think it's really wonderful, it keeps us very warm. But for us this is a precious treasure, but for others, for example like an insect, it could be something to eat. It could also be something to be carried away by a river or a stream, or something which could be blown away by a gale, or something which could be fuel for a raging fire. So here this is something which is easily lost, whereas good understanding gleaned through listening to the teaching is something that can never be lost, always remain with one. So therefore, hearing the teaching is a wonderful treasure which cannot be carried away.
Tuval 나오지 유라요. 소소 투바 제시하는데 소소년도 대여와 인소산데 소소도 갈에 타고지는 무겁게 시라기 조금씩 잡아 있는 뒤거스인데 투바지 누구요? 근데 뒤거스야 되네. 투바지 소소래야 설소당 아니 이해를 대화팀도 근데 되는 대인도산에 홍보를 줄자 민족 자원이 있어. 자원이 생각도 홍보체는 줄고요. 투베 투베 자원이 다 되는데 홍보를 주나요? 주한 내배 민주로 왔는데 배시라 때도 대도는 자원이 있어.
Hearing the teaching is the wonderful friend or associate that will always remain with one despite changing circumstance. Here, if we think about our lives, and if we think how we would be if we suddenly became very well off or very powerful, people, seemingly friends, would flock around us. However, again, with a change of circumstance, if we were to become poor or without influence or power, just as soon as they came around us, these fleeting so-called friends of associates would fly away from us. However, hearing of the teaching, never mind what circumstance we are in, without recourse to that, this hearing, this associate of hearing the teaching, knowledge which is gleaned therethrough, without recourse to one's circumstance, will always remain steadfast with one. Here this associate will always be with us, never mind what our external circumstance, never mind what our external wealth or well-being may be, and without any type of recourse to the influence or power one may have over others. This kind of steadfast companion then is that of hearing. So despite a change in circumstance, steadfast companion or friend of hearing. So, through utilizing those four examples, we may remember them by thinking of a bright lamp, or a sharp weapon, or this treasure which it is impossible to lose, or this wonderful friend or associate who would always kind of accompany one despite whatever changes in circumstance may arise. We can recall then the qualities of hearing the teaching, utilizing these examples. But you may wonder, well, how does this actually relate to me? Let's think of an individual who is stricken with a disease, let's say a heat disease, and they have a great fever. But for a person who has no understanding of action, karma, cause and effect whatsoever, for such an individual, when they are in a hospital or at home and they are racked with fever and feelings of desperation, what happens is, even though the illness is within the body, in dependence upon that illness, the mind starts to get disturbed, thinking there's no reason I should be struck with this illness, there's no reason why I should have this and somebody else shouldn't. Why me, you might say. Whereas for an individual who has heard teachings on action, cause and effect, when they experience such a disease, such an illness, immediately the thought will come to mind, oh, this is none other than the ripening effect of a previously accrued negative action. So I just have to sit this out. And the mind should remain quite calm, even though fever may be consuming the body. The mind nevertheless remains quite calm and steadfast in this understanding. So here we can directly see the correlation between hearing a teaching and understanding it, putting it into practice and gleaning the benefit from that contemplation or practice. This then, if we take as our standpoint, we can see the benefits of then engaging in the Dharma practice, through then contemplating it, through then initially hearing teachings upon it. Thus then is the benefit of hearing the teaching of the teaching. One can understand what is then to be put into practice and then receive the benefits of putting that into practice. So that's a kind of amusing story to illustrate this point. While some time ago in the United States of America, there's a Dharma center there belonging to Lama Zopa. It's called the Milarepa Dharma Center in Vermont. And there was a Geshe, and he had a friend who was dying in hospital of cancer. So he thought, well, I'll go and console this friend of mine. So he set off for the hospital, and he went there and he started to say some consoling words, at which point the individual who was suffering from cancer was just about and was on death's doorstep, you might say. He was just about to die. And he turned round to this Geshe and said, what are you bothering to tell me all this for? Whoever is born is going to die, right? So what is there to be scared about? You're just kind of blabbing on, wasting time. I know that I'm going to die. So why don't you just leave me in peace? She kind of told, he said, in fact, the kind of Geshe went there to offer him some counsel, and in fact he received some counsel as opposed to giving it.
사실도 또는 somebody 제가 그 처음에 그 말하는 네버지에 통을 열었어. 저 예스에서 러브는 야만 예스에 누구 내가 세상 또는 예스에 한 거. 소소사. 이건 인바다 다 뭐는 배우듯이. 이제는 다서 제가 뭐 러브는 됐어.
So there's also another amusing story. There was a fellow called Rinpoche, who was a very fine Lama, who was the ex-abbot of the Abbot Tantric College, and he held kind of a very high position within the Gelugpa tradition, and he was stricken with cancer in the Assam region of northern India, and his disciples took him to the best hospital there. And he wasn't that old, in fact. So the doctors kind of deliberated as to whether to tell him immediately how serious and severe his illness was. They thought, oh, perhaps we could procrastinate and wait till he's in a kind of peaceful state of mind, and then perhaps tell him, or perhaps we just don't tell him at all and kind of fill him full of drugs, and perhaps it'll be okay. And so he realized that the doctors were procrastinating in telling him what was actually wrong with him. So he called all of the doctors to him and said, why aren't you telling me what's wrong? He said, I'm quite open to hear what you have to say, and if it's terminal cancer that's going to kill me in a couple of days, then just tell me, because cancer is just a disease which is going to ruin this body. But I've got something which is much worse than that. My mind is full of confusion, anger, and attachment. So this is going to ruin me for all the future lives. Cancer is just temporary, it's going to ruin one life. Whereas these three destructive states of mind which I have are going to ruin all my future lives. So you say what you like, I'm not frightened. So then the doctors kind of said, well, okay, I need to tell him everything. So they told him everything. So the very fact that those individuals were able to face death so well, so bravely, is all due to the kindness of having heard the teaching and put it into practice. So seeing the benefits and the necessity for initially receiving the teachings, so within that frame of mind, one should, as much as possible, receive the teaching.
간제 로바손지 연대다 하베 로바손지 연대다 템바지 고야 하베 로바 무치 남바손기 다 투지 주거지 저 되는지 고야 이쇼와 연대 하바스비 소소레 연대 하바지 고야 소소레 연대 하바베나 소소다 연대 냠바이나 다가라 데리어르마도 보통만 되는 소소레 연대 좋아해나 태도 되는 거야. 제가 소소를 연대 하버지 그거. 걔가 연대 하바선 어때? 전체에서 주주다 담바선 교화를 도와주는 데는 두자배 기술 담발이야 도와주는 데는 손칸 개를 도와오 제가 인자 주주다 제바선 전체에서 안에 두제 기술은 두제 되냐야 근데 합제되는 거 주였던 말이야 좋아요 전지 그러자면 전지 롱기 쉐바데 안에 소소 가르게 주년 그거 이러나 주년이 롱되게 롱주다 치진도도 여봐 대다도 도수 주제봐 근데 주고 인대가 전지 롱기 주고서 어디 다 대니라도 또 배에서는 대니라도 또 봤어도 시야게 최되게 주제 되게 제다와 전도 콘도 주고 주고 어디 아니 대버도 주시는
So the place where we left the teaching yesterday, this translation which you have called the Jewel Rosary of the practice of the bodhicitta. Whenever I see my spiritual master, I pay respect from my heart. That's the last line in the Tibetan text. So here it mentions something which is very important, spiritual master. So here when we talk about spiritual master or teacher, what does it actually mean? When we think about teachers which are around in the world, who actually fulfills the criteria for being a spiritual teacher and who doesn't? With regard the activities that we could rely upon a spiritual teacher for, there are those which are condensed into three. Here there is the qualities of a spiritual teacher who teaches the Vinaya, or the monastic discipline, and the qualities of somebody who gives that particular ordination and teaching. There is the spiritual master from the Sutra tradition. Here this principally refers to the greater vehicle spiritual master, or the spiritual master who teaches the greater vehicle teachings or sutras, and then the qualifications or qualities of a spiritual master who gives empowerments, ripening empowerments, and liberating instructions, and back up oral transmissions from the collection of the secret mantra practices. So here I'm not going to elaborate on the first and the last, that is to say, the qualities of a spiritual master from within the Vinaya or from within the secret mantra Vajrayana. But what I'm going to dwell upon and elaborate a little upon is the quality, or rather are the qualities of a spiritual master from within the practice of the greater vehicle, Bodhisattva or Mahayana teachings. To illustrate this, there is a quotation from the ornament for the sutras by Majja and Sangha, the Mahayana Sutra Alankara. So within this text, it gives us 10 qualities of a prospective spiritual master. So I won't translate the quotation itself, but rather I'll just go through the qualities as Rinpoche has elaborated upon them. First one quality that such a master should have is to be disciplined. Here, discipline refers to having achieved or trained in the higher training of ethical conduct. Peaceful, Here, a prospective spiritual master should have pacified his or her mind from the gross destructive emotions through the higher training in concentration. The third quality is that the individual should be very peaceful. Here, very peaceful, very refers to the understanding of suchness, which is gleaned through the higher training in wisdom. Here that the first three qualities point to a respective spiritual master being well trained or well disciplined in the three higher trainings of ethical conduct, concentration and wisdom. The fourth quality is that a prospective spiritual master should have more qualities than the disciple. Here then, with regard to a spiritual master, if one relies on a spiritual master who is at the same kind of spiritual level as one, there might be the chance that one can learn something from him, but one would not be able to advance one's qualities. Here, if we talk about a spiritual master who has less qualities than oneself, then there's really not much point in relying on such an individual, because we wouldn't learn anything. So a respective spiritual teacher or master should have more qualities than one, and one should go to such an individual to learn those qualities. Fifth one is that the spiritual master should be ethical, should live a kind of wholesome life. This refers to having a kind of kind, altruistic attitude in general and towards those students or those disciples who come to the spiritual master for particular teachings in specific. The sixth quality is that of lineage. The respective spiritual master should have the necessary permission to engage in the practice of teaching from his or her subsequent spiritual master, should also have the qualities of the transmissions and so forth passed from master to disciple, authorizing him or her to teach. One should have at best the quality of realization. Here realization refers to having direct understanding or a direct experience of that which he or she, that instruction which he or she is imparting to the disciples. That's the seventh quality.
공부도 칸다 지켜서 최초도 가야 매다 사는데 그 말에 레전드에 군주 소야매 람냥도 람자에 람냥도 람베데로에 매스는 지금도 라마티 로베신이지 맞아서 가게 내버져 구바터기 최탐제는 구바터기지 맞아서 동샤와이다 다 되네 양까지 손데 야 라마지게 라마지 제베가 라마지 군도에 취슈에 라마지게 제부 컴 사바라데 알레 담보 아니 군도에 취가 남자도 시 내내도 요바시 내내 되네 제네 라제메베 도다티 손 이 손도다니 라제메베 도다티 아마 프로그램 고아고 손바 대나시 다다베 충분주야. 대다 하마디 근데 이제는 봐고 아까 다지 하마디 손야한테 더가는 힘받아도 이제서 다들 잔들에는 뒤 공부돼서는 고시라 비샤버 그때는 제대로 가나야. 배남래야. 라메 셰시. 저랑배 칸네스 내시다는 말이 그랬어. 내시야 그다데다 야 보여야지. 내시다는 말이 그래. 한번에 저랑래야. 타지 남자 유단데 마셔버지 라제 배버디 시샤버인데 저랑기 라제 배버다 배버니 지도 권에 대체 잡아내 대에다 내시다는 말이 그래. 대에다 다처럼 나 공부들 조금만 지스. 근데 럼보치 고아래야 내다고 지지스. 걔네들 저랑 차도 주발로 소바도 유연을 먹어도지 샹고체는 저랑 디버타도 우리 저랑 마세버디야 만디 버리더니 최시다데 만디 버리스. 하나님가로 만디 버려야겠어. 가나지. 최디 시야 최디야 우연해야 하나님도 칸다 삼발해야 되네 마시나 내디 인성 시에잖아. 그게 해봐야 뭐야 여봐야 좋구가 어쩌다 그대도 다네 막해봐 하셔야 돼 한도 삼바다 삼바체네 봐
The respective spiritual master should also have the understanding from within the two truths of the ultimate nature of reality, ultimate truth. At best it will be a direct experience. The respective spiritual master should also be one who is an expert at giving discourse. So what this refers to is this respective spiritual master should be one who is able to impart the teaching in accordance with the disciples' mental capacity or ability to apprehend and to cognize the teachings. So understanding this from the side of the Lama is something from the side of the respective spiritual master is something very important. And to illustrate this, there is a story about a realized master who was known as the one clad in elephant hide. So here this individual was one who kind of dwelled in a kind of isolated place in ancient India, and he wore around him an old elephant hide. And the king of the particular region where he was living paid him a visit and asked him to give him some discourse about Buddhism. And so he immediately started to teach the ultimate view of Shunya or emptiness, saying that there is no aggregation, there is no aggregation of body and mind, there is no constituents, there is no sense faculties, etc. This king, upon hearing the teaching, thought this is an individual who is really a kind of nihilist in disguise as a Buddhist. He is teaching that nothing exists at all. So therefore, three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha do not exist. The Four Noble Truths do not exist. Nothing exists. What a terrible kind of individual, what a terrible kind of nihilistic teaching this person is giving. So the king had this individual killed. The king then wandered to another part of the kingdom where there was another realized master giving teaching. And he went before this individual and requested his counsel and teaching. This master was one who had an insight into the kind of mindset of the prospective disciples, and slowly started to teach the king in accordance with his mental capacity, leading him through the understanding of conventional truth into action, cause and effect, into dependent arising, through that into mutual causality, etc. And through that, ultimately leading him to the ultimate truth. And then with regard to that presentation of the non-ultimate existence, or the lack of autonomous existence of phenomena, so he utilized also the non-affirming negative, saying there is no aggregation, there is no sense faculty, at which point the king realized his blunder and said to this particular Lama, I've made a grave mistake. Previously there was a wonderful teacher who gave this exact discourse, but I thought him to be a nihilist and had him executed. At which point the realized master said, okay, you should do some kind of purification practices, and had him start to do those practices, which he did at night and day with his mind full of regret for his action at having killed his previous spiritual master. And it must have worked, because in a dream this king beheld the face of the superior being clad in the elephant hide, who said, even though it was wrong that you killed me, what was worse was my explanation of the Dharma. I hadn't thought about you, I just wanted to teach something which I knew, even though you weren't in a suitable mindset or state to receive such a teaching. What you should do is to visit the place where I used to live, and then you should erect the elephant hide, which I used to robe myself in, and if you set up some offering there and make your kind of confession or tearing out of the previously accrued negative action, regretting fiercely that action and doing the various purification practices, that will suffice in removing this negative action which you have performed, at which the king immediately set out and engaged in that action. So we can see from this story then that a really qualified teacher is not going to insist on teaching certain subjects because they want to, or they're not going to insist on pushing forward a certain view or way of doing things. Rather, when they encounter individuals who come to them for counsel or spiritual advice, they will counsel them or lead them according to their disposition. Thus then is the verbal quality of explanation, which is the ninth of these 10 qualities.
L'enfant devait parler de vos crânes, en moment de ce injure de tienne, n'est même pas, toi, moitié de tienne pas, on est parlé jamais, on est de dire, tu as tout tourné, on a de l'été, tu son pouvoir. Tu vois le temps, on a les favorités, il y en a, on est, de temps, t'as de l'été pouvoir, matala, son de temps, tu pouvoir. 다 근데 주거는 되게 교육이 된 중요하다. 제대로 신이 매발해야 되네. 교육이 되나 신이 됐단 말이나 신이 맞아면 신이 됐단 말이나 언제라니 그 통하는 줘야지. 양가 있는 거지. 그다음 근데 일단은 신이다 되면 다시 전에 신이다 되면 교육이는 왜 그러지? 나 당연하게 말하는 거 최 최고 상관이 얘나야 소소래야. 도대체 손이 연대도
The last qualities then are of impartial love, that is to say, an attitude which looks at all sentient beings without recourse to their attitude towards the respective spiritual master, but rather that the attitude spiritual master has of looking at all sentient beings in the same light of wishing them all to have happiness and the cause thereof, with this mind of impartial love. And finally, such a teacher or master shouldn't complain when requested to teach. Here then this refers to, of course, not answering the whim of everybody's kind of fancy, but rather not when they give a discourse, undergoing hardship in order to impart the teaching to others is a quality which the spiritual master should have from their part. So finding a spiritual master who has all of these qualities is something really rather difficult. However, if we could find a spiritual master who had, say, 5 of these qualities, that would be great. What if 5 is not available? Then at least 3 or 2. But having less than 2 or 3 of these qualities wouldn't really warrant somebody the suitable necessity to be a spiritual master. So here, if one were to rely on such an individual, one oneself would cause one's own downfall. So it's imperative that one look at a prospective spiritual master in the light of these qualities and check that the prospective spiritual master has such qualities to be worthy of one's attention. So then, as the text goes on to read, whenever I see my spiritual master, I pay him respect from my heart. So here, with regard one's spiritual master, whatever one can do to aid one's spiritual master, then one should delight in that, and one should continually hold one's spiritual master in high esteem and have respect, an uncontrived respect for such a teacher.
뭔가 양말 주고 쳤으면 가비 지수 주바스 당고 가 라면은 좋아할까 이제 양말에 대해서 라면은 좋아하지 주고 유에서 어디 가지 주바 그러니까 양말 주고 쳐 가비 지수 주바 당고 가버리데 주마티 제고 유에서 주가데 가르는 레서나 라면 뭐도 좋아하지 가 얘나야 냥아에 내려야 신나 요사들이 내려야 아니 소소게 주고 내가 요인다 내가 소소게 놓고 봐 언제 진짜 냥아에 내려야 소소게 놓고 요스 만들어는 되게 베스 이 두번 진짜 내가 인도산에 그 가발 돌아다니는 냥아에 내려 처음 있나요 아니 왜 교화도 집에 보는데 이 교화도 집에 보는 돌아 차 예송
One is then, if we read from the text, having abandoned bad influence from others, I shall follow spiritual friends. Be happy myself wherever I go, without ill will towards others, and not be discontent with my life. So here, there is an important point to note, that one should abandon these this mind of ill will and discontentment. Now this can refer to two particular objects. It can refer to our friends and people we encounter in our day-to-day life, but more importantly, it can refer to our spiritual master. So what does that mean, you may wonder? Here, if one has checked a prospective spiritual master and decided to rely upon them, then how do we react? How do we relate to such an individual? Of course, as the text says, we should have a respect for such a spiritual master. But what happens in circumstances which do not exactly fit our vision of the world? So here it's important to understand that the spiritual master's actions, even though they may not fit within our vision of the world, are not something which are done arbitrarily, but rather do have a meaning. In order to then understand this, let us use the example of a Sangha. A Sangha was an individual who continually prayed for 12 years to have a vision of Maitreya Buddha, and after these 12 years, through developing a great sense of concern or compassion for others, he beheld Maitreya in the form of a maggot-ridden bitch. Here, even if such a great master such as a Sangha were to see the Buddha in such a form, what to talk about ordinary folks like ourselves. So when we have a relationship with a spiritual master, and the spiritual master instructs us in a certain way, then we should listen to what that spiritual master says, without regard to whether it fits in with our temporary vision of the world, whether we like it or not. Rather, whatever the spiritual master advises us, after having relied perfectly on such a spiritual master, we should engage in that practice and reap the result thereof. So it's imperative to understand that this refers to relying on somebody as a spiritual master after having checked to see whether they have these respective qualities. And after having seen that and relied upon them, we should do we should fulfill the instructions of the spiritual master. Now this can change according to circumstance, so it's important to be aware of one's relationship with circumstance. For example, according to the Vinaya, or the teachings on ethical discipline, one is not permitted to walk in front of one's spiritual master. However, if the spiritual master is in an unknown place or a dangerous place, in order to avoid discomfort or danger befalling one's spiritual master, then one is instructed to walk ahead of one's spiritual master. So here we see two contrary pieces of instruction. One is that we should walk in front of the spiritual master, and then the former is that we should always remain behind the spiritual master. So that this might confuse us, but it's not really confusing. It's just a matter of relating with our common sense, according to the instructions which are laid down by the fully enlightened one, to circumstance. If there is a danger that one's spiritual master may harm him or herself, then we should walk ahead to make sure the way is clear, the way is known, and that there is no danger on the way, so to speak. And with regard to the other instruction, when the road is clear, then we should always walk behind at a respectful distance to one's spiritual master, where on that road or pathway there is no apparent danger. So this is then how we should relate to one's spiritual master, abandoning whatever anger and hostility or confusion that may come out of not really understanding the instruction at a given time, but rather trusting one's spiritual master with one's spiritual development, not relying on any kind of whim or thought which may all of a sudden arise within one's being. If one is able to do that, one will be happy oneself wherever one goes.
tabio ko to mo to be cheba yin to tane tabio so ju jese onda te yo cha se de shira ge na ko nyomo me na ne be na su je be chai shida to ko be che du ja ya de ena ko hare hore de sabo ma to che ge shira ge na ko de me mo de.
The next part of the text reads, I abandon attachment to any desirable thing and remain desireless, for attachment in any form can never lead to a happy rebirth. Instead, it takes away the life force of liberation from suffering. So here then, this introduces us to the mental factor, or the attitude of desire, desirous attachment, and it also gives us the advice on abandoning such a state of mind. So here, let us look at desire. When we hear about desire, or the attitude, or the mindset of desire, you may wonder then, what does this refer to? Here, when we think of desire, of course we see pleasant objects with our eye consciousness directly, or we see it within the framework of the mind's eye, or conceptually. Most of these kind of valid mindsets are part and parcel of our daily life. So you may think removing desire refers to removing connection with pleasant objects. Here, this is not the case at all. What desire is a mindset which initially cognizes a pleasant object, but then is not content with just the cognition, whether it be direct, that is to say, an object which one sees with one's eye consciousness, hears with one's ear consciousness, etc., or sees within the mind's eye. Not content with just viewing that object, but it starts to elaborate upon the qualities of that object, or to exaggerate the qualities of that object, culminating then in this thirst to possess or to consume that particular object. This is then the mind of desire or desirous attachment. If we think about this mindset, it is something which is part and parcel of our life. It is something which leads us astray from our various practices. It is something which destroys even temporary peace of mind. This exaggeration, and then dwelling upon that exaggeration of a pleasant object. This mindset is from within the levels or the discussion of destructive emotions the worst. We think of anger, even though it is incredibly destructive, it is something which arises and then is gone. Anger arises suddenly and also very quickly leaves our mindset, whereas desire kind of lingers and just kind of sticks to everything, kind of making our mind misery, making us continually grasping onto objects which appear either directly or mentally to us rather. This then may not be so bad, you think. However, under the influence of this desirous attachment, one can never have a happy migration, that is to say, rebirth, within the realms of the human and the divine, for the very reason that we are continually grasping onto ordinary objects that do not even exist. This exaggeration, this, whether it be within the desire realm within which we find ourselves, whether it be within the form or the formless realms, whatever this desire of mind or attitude that adheres to or grasps upon becomes the focal point of one's existence, seizing happy rebirth, and for those of us who aspire to the state of nirvana, complete and perfect Buddhahood, the very life force of that is severed through this mental factor of desirous attachment. So when we talk of severing the life force or cutting life, here it refers to the severing of the body and the mind. So at death, whether it be one induced or whether it be a natural one, at this time then the body and the mind go their separate directions. The body cannot function, and then the mind cannot function within that body. So at this point then, that person's life is spent. So in the same way, when the life force of a person's life, when the life force of a person is spent, then that person can no longer function. So in the same way, when one's spiritual practice is, life force is cut or spent through this destructive emotion of desire, and one can no longer progress towards the state of liberation.
Oh yeah. Now come to daily truth, get out of the paper child. Come to chat and you scenario. Never the Pulia, Lucena, the one doing truth, Chichu, you were the consona, and tell you about it, tell a name, and then 2000 get your level to children. Yes.
I shall exert myself in any virtuous activity that can lead me to ultimate happiness. So here, translation can also read, whenever I see any type of virtuous activity, I will continually exert myself in that. So here this refers to coming into contact with that virtuous activity, seeing it as that, and then exerting oneself in that action, leading one to ultimate happiness.
Denma 제바치 담보 좀바데 내버치 주마 좀바데 내버치나 이해도 이가 좀 주스 대매나 담보 좀바데 룸도 주마 좀바데 룸도 안데 되지 사자 뱅디에 손을 저와 면제 자자 좀 타티 저와지 담에 저 같이 중벌지 지대라고 준데 참 괜찮은 내가 가르쳐 저배 메다 몽부지 좀 저배다 자자 좀 써. 자기 몽부이 메디 되면도 자다다 정거자 담보 부르게 되잖아요. 저 메다 앞에 자자 몽제 몽부시로 좀 탈침에 저지에 내버지 그거로 육추가 내버지 주머지 먼저가 시다지 저 패치 정말지 저 미망체 종게 바자라는 로드는 치도도 나시 아로 저로 다들이 되지 말았어. 저 같이 정말지 지겐 나와 윤도 참 무슨 종게 바자라기 지겐도 나시 전에 윤도 바로 준도 야주 단단히 돼서 내버지 처음에 나와 저라 먹고 좀 탈침에 저와 뛰어 내버지 쟤네 저 멍쳐야지 정말지 지겐 나와는 지겐 나시 전에 봐도 참 되고 그래서 제가 되게 지죠 말해서 저한테 담보 누사님이 계속는 새 말이 따지야 못하고 됐어. 맞좀 봐도 좋았어. 좀년 도와 저한테 개발을 좀 해서 제가 담보 저한테 좀 주다 저한테 제가 몸으로 따지야 못해. 다들 누사들 좀 내고도 상관은 좀 사는 애들 다가라 내를 무덥 제고 왔어. 제가 제가 양측 전지 좀 양측 전지 좀 제가 되는 사제변에 가진 남만시 저와 맨날 자자 좀 탑재 저와 끼게 저 배치 정말지 지게라고 준비 참새 좀 만나시 언제도 뭐 이제 나나요 근데 왜 돈을 근데 쟤는 저와 탐지 레벨 루트버지 연구를 했어 대마제바지 텔레신도 제가 했나 근데 이걸 좀 주선 담보 좀 받대야 만도 주마 좀 받대야 만도 근데 이걸 좀 주면 되겠어.
The next few lines advise guides us how to accomplish the spiritual path, accomplishing first whatever practices I have started. Thus I will be able to accomplish all my practices. Otherwise none of my tasks will be accomplished. So here, then, whatever practices one starts to engage in, one should initially check the practice to make sure that it's a worthwhile one, it's worthwhile engaging in, it's worth our kind of attention and our time or lifespan, you might say. And then we can, through having decided to engage in such an activity, one should engage in it perfectly and not in a half-hearted fashion. Because once we've started, we should complete that particular practice or that particular task or project. If one just starts it half-heartedly and then gets a minor distraction comes along, then we will just abandon that project and we'll start something else. And when the habit of starting one thing and leaving it half-finished to start another thing only to leave that half-finished becomes a part of our psyche or part of our being, then we will never accomplish anything. And this is a really desperate state to be in. We should always try to accomplish whatever we set out to do and not to be distracted by temporary kind of distractions. This is illustrated by the great master Sakyapandita, who recounts that starting out to do one deed, starting to do 100 deeds and not accomplishing one is just like the coming together of 100 birds who are then scattered, roaming aimlessly here and there, not accomplishing anything whatsoever. Here then, if we liken activities to like 100 birds put together for like one particular place, and then releasing them, and they all go in their respective directions. But if we watch them and see what they do, they fly here and perhaps get some food, fly there, do something, scurry around a little, then go over here. They don't really accomplish anything. They're continually going here and there, doing this, doing that. But this is just an example. It's used to illustrate activity. Here, if we start out with 100 things to do, we half-heartedly finish half of the first one, and then after that we move on to the second one, and then perhaps get bored of that and go on to the third one. It's like we're starting 100 projects and not accomplishing one of them. So basically our action becomes likened to those birds, which are just going here and there, doing this and that, and not really doing anything worthwhile whatsoever. So if one is going to engage in a particular discipline or in a particular action, one should initially look at that, see if there is anything see if it is a worthwhile activity. After having decided that it is something worthwhile, then we should engage in that activity and bring it to its conclusion. Through that, we'll reap the result of that practice, or we'll accomplish that practice, and then through that we can then move on to the next one, and then accomplish that, and there through all of one's tasks will be accomplished.
le toba de mato ngara ya thaba ka ke malis yena ji yende chimbu insan ba juro yona ngara yende de ane gigen du ke kate na de yende de chomba de mato ngara de ta ke juan thaba malis ane daga na ke nor da buchi ta phame nor de yoga yena ane nor de ngara de kai chomba male phame sabbe nor de ne ron ju ga sam ta de de samata ne ane ngaje de ma na cha 이제 맞게 잡자지. 라면 당아 참을 자. 라면에 송샤게 샤담도 안에 라면 송샤게 당아도 되네. 참을 야 라면 되게 송송 되게 송송 삼네. 근데 람도 주지 녀mom바 뭐하고 녀mom바 녀르시에 탁 라면 송샤게 녀mom바 녀르시에 탁도 이해를 해네. 녀mom바 대파 쉬어지고 버리스. 이 가르에서는 산지존데 내게 주지 공부 진이 주스마 탐지 녀mom바 뒤에 주스마 시다. 주반은 진행보지 주지 공부 투벌 소문 전수. 어디지? 얘가 말아도 가이 친이 셔주다네. 가이 친이 좋아서는 주지 녀몽 본전 도 변배 손배 손으로 털두게 가이 친이 인지. 주지 녀몽 본전 도지 제가 주지 주지 녀몽 봐야 그다라 좀봐 산지 존대지 주송베스 주지 녀몽 본전 변배 손배 손으로 털두게 손으로 털두게 산지 손으로 연대 털두게 산지기 연대들와 얘도 다네 주지 녀몽 본전도 변배 손배 손으로 털두게 가이 친이 제가 가이에나 주지 녀몽 본전도 변배 손배지 주지 녀몽 본배 견도 손배 주지 녀몽 늘 타고 있는 거지 시다 얘가 라면 당아 참을 자서니까 녀몽 녀시 치도 라면 당아도 되네 녀몽 봐봐 응고는 거 치고 예수
The next section, and the last on this second page, reads, I take no interest in those activities that can be harmful to others, cast away pride over my qualities whenever that arises in my mind. I should always remind myself of the instructions of my spiritual teacher. So here then, in order to abandon a negative action, one should look at that action and not just try to remove oneself from it, but look at the mind which delights in those actions, and then separate oneself from that attitude. Here the direct translation means being separated from the mind delighting in negative actions. So here then, if one likes negative action, one should eradicate that like by reflecting on the qualities of wholesome action and the faults of negative action, and through this try to develop an attitude which is as helpful as possible to others. With this attitude at the forefront of one's being, what occurs naturally is a decrease in one's pride. Pride then is this attitude or mental factor which dwells upon a particular quality which one may have possessed, and then one exaggerates that, and one feels that one is superior to everybody else because of this small condition which one temporarily has a hold of. If you wonder what is then the instruction to remove this, here then, if we look at those objects about which we can feel pride, for example, if we are a very beautiful person, this is due to the kindness of our parents' genes. If we're a very wealthy person, that is to say, if we're born into a wealthy family, this is, now we are very wealthy because of that. It's just something which is all due to the kindness of one's parents, of one's particular family. It has nothing to do with oneself. If we're particularly gifted in a particular science or language or whatever, we should just contemplate on how these qualities have just arisen through the kindness of our spiritual teacher. There is nothing unique about us that has allowed us to achieve such understanding without regard to a spiritual teacher. Therefore, one can remove this destructive emotion of pride by bearing in mind the instructions of one's spiritual master. Now here it's important to understand that all the teaching of the Buddha can be these quintessential instructions. In fact, the very definition of the word of the Buddha is that which causes the destructive emotions, is the kind of exalted speech which causes the destructive emotions in the minds of the disciples to be lessened. That is the definition of the word or the instruction of the fully enlightened one. So then this instruction then should be one which, the cognition of which brings about the destruction of the negative emotions or negative attitudes within the mindset or within the being of the individual who listens to those particular teachings. So this is the very definition of instruction or quintessential instruction of the fully enlightened one, and can be related then down to one's own spiritual master. The instructions which cause the destructive emotions or negative emotions within one to decrease.